Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. Bicycle Retail Radio brings together retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders for honest discussions about the latest issues facing bicycle retailers. The podcast dives deep into the challenges and triumphs of the bicycle industry, providing an in-depth look at the person behind the profession. Aiming to deliver content that's both relatable and thought-provoking, offering real-world tips and insights to help you find success in the bicycle industry. There's a human side of the business, and the podcast aims to share stories, experiences, and strategies that you can apply in your own shop. Whether you're looking for inspiration, practical advice, or a sense of community, you've come to the right place. The National Bicycle Dealer Association has a rich history of supporting retailers across the nation. Founded in 1946 with a mission to strengthen specialty bicycle retailers through education, through research, through communication, and through advocacy. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is proudly supported by our members and our membership. If you'd like to learn more about the benefits of joining, please visit NBDA.com.
Wolf e-bikes, designed for riders looking for a simple and efficient mode of transportation. High quality, low stress. We have a special for NBDA members. Our Ursa and Ursa ST Cruiser with $1,740 wholesale, now $1,000. Retail it at $1,699 with a 41% margin. Free shipping and 90-day dating for orders of 10 or more. A great new lineup coming for spring 25. Check us out at wolfebikes.com and become a dealer today. That's WOLFFEBIKES.com.
Discover Cat Trike, America's leading recumbent trike brand, proudly manufactured in the USA. Cat Trike stands for exceptional quality and reliable dealer support. Our dealer terms are robust, ensuring a beneficial partnership. By joining us, you not only expand your product range, but also attract a new customer base, driving revenue growth in 2025. Become a Cat Trike dealer today and discover the difference. Contact us at info@cattrike.com. Cat Trike, where passion meets engineering.
All right, listeners, welcome to The Flex. Thanks for being here. I'm Heather Mason, NBDA president. Today is our Technician Flex. The Technician Flex is an ongoing podcast feature where we focus specifically on the service center and mechanics, and it's produced in partnership with NBDA educational partner, Northwest Arkansas Community College's Bicycle Assembly and Repair Technician Program. Director Benjamin Glenn. Ben, that's always a mouthful for me.
We need to shorten it, so maybe we should work on that. But I feel like everyone that's been listening, understands. We are the college here in Northwest Arkansas, the community college. We are one of the largest, or the largest in the state of Arkansas. Typically, most folks call us NWAC, NWACC. So I don't know. Maybe we can work on that. But.
Yeah. All right. So listeners, if you're still with us, they're located right in Bentonville, Arkansas. It's the place to go if you haven't been there. We highly suggest it. And the college did partner with the BIEA, which is the Bicycle Industry Employers Association. And what they're offering is an accredited certification in bike assembly and repair, and you can go and gain skills in bicycle mechanics, wheel repair, everything. They run through even service department operations. So it's pretty cool. We always link to their website in the show notes, so check it out. What we do in these Tech Flex is we answer questions that retailers send us in. So any listener, if you're listening and you have questions, you can email me questions on anything, your service department operations, any technical questions, just send them right to me at heather@nbda.com. And I give them to Ben, and Ben and I show up, and we go ahead and we answer them live on air. So Ben, we got some tough ones today, right?
We do. Yeah, these are very service oriented. I'm excited to get to talking about them. Like I said, before we hit record on this and go, I feel like sometimes I'm a little, I could go a little too deep, but hopefully, our listeners and the folks that wrote these in will get some information here and put them on the right track.
I love it. Yeah, it's all good information. I don't know. You just roll right through it. You've got great answers. I'd be remiss. How's the school going? What's happening with the classes there right now?
Yeah, we're kind of in between semesters. So our spring semester actually won't start until February. We've changed it up a little bit halfway through this cohort of students we have. So we've traditionally been on a 16-week semester, one 16-week session in the fall, and then a 16-week in the spring. This spring, we've actually cut that down to 12 weeks. So our seat time doesn't change, just our daily schedule gets a little bit longer. So students are still getting the same amount of education. It's just a little bit more compacted into 2 days as opposed to 4 days. So I actually talked with a graduate this morning, and he was kind of jealous of that move and said that would have been perfect. He works a full-time job and said, "Hey, I could have went to school 2 days a week, and then taking care of my full-time duties on those other days he's not in class." So I'm excited about the change. We still have our service department operations, wheels course, our e-bikes course, which I'm really excited about this year. We're actually adding another fleet of e-bikes. So we'll have 4 fleets of e-bikes to work with, all different e-bikes as well. So that really will deepen what we can do, exercises we can do in the classroom. So, and then of course our suspension class, our instructor in our suspension class has added a lot of content to that during this break period, and I'm really excited to see where Adam's going to go with that one.
It's been awesome from my side to watch kind of the development of what you're doing there. So from your original offering, then you did some smaller courses that maybe even people in the community could come and learn from you. And I know there's some interesting things coming down the pipeline. So we want to get more mechanics to Arkansas, training with you, and whether they're the year-long course or even something shorter, there's opportunities that are coming. And I like to see that you're kind of changing what you're offering and responding to where you see need. Thank you for that.
It's been fantastic. It's definitely taken a lot more brains than I have, a lot more eyes, and I really appreciate my instructors, Ronnie Ramos and Adam Stansfield. Both of them have brought a wealth of knowledge and just see things quite a bit differently than I do, and really are able to really stretch the boundaries in what we can do. In fact, Ronnie's been working with a lot of the Arkansas NICA students and coaches and teams around the state, and actually is developing some courses for them. So excited to see what happens with that program this year.
I love to see that. And I know you have the trail building school that started there as well. How's that doing?
The trail building school, they have just finished their first semester, and I think they're taking a deep breath right now. Just a lot of eyes on that program and a lot of folks that are really interested in it. They had a really successful first semester. They actually had several people from the national parks departments around the U.S. Take some of their online courses. They're excited to see this next group of students actually in February as well. So I think things are going they're going great, so I can't complain.
And I know we're having our retailer summit event in May, and we will be making sure that we visit the facility again or arrange to have you at the show or whatnot. There'll be opportunities, I'm sure. We just got to dial those granular details in. So looking forward to that. Are you ready for this, Ben? Let's get into
it. Let's do this. Yep.
3 questions. The first one came to us from a service technician, and it's on advanced troubleshooting for electronic shifting. So the question he wrote was, what's the best way to diagnose intermittent issues with electronic shifting system, so like DI2 or SRAM access, that aren't showing error codes but occasionally misfire during use?
Oh, yeah, e-bike or e-shifting. I almost said e-bikes. E-bikes have that system on them as well. So that e-shifting, those e-drive trains, things are getting so smart. It's amazing where that's going, and the different companies that are starting to look into that. We had FSA a while back that produced a really interesting wireless group set. DI2 from Shimano really paved the way for other folks to really start looking at that. Now SRAM access and SRAM transmission. So I don't think this stuff is going away. We really need to make sure we're staying on top of our technology and what these systems can do for the rider, and just the accessibility that can come with these as well. But occasionally, these systems do present some problems. We do get some issues with these. It's a mechanical system. Yeah, it's smart. It's got a computer attached to it, but it's going to fail at some points. A couple of tips and some things that I think that our listeners will probably know, but just maybe a reminder of some of these, and maybe some folks will pick up on some something they hadn't thought about. I always approach service as from the least invasive to the most invasive, or the simplest, most outside obvious solution to the most detailed solution that might take a little bit more time to solve. So I always think about, making sure my batteries are charged completely, that the firmware, the software, everything that's running that system is updated. Double check my app settings as well. Make sure my trim adjustments that I can do through the SRAM app and my DI2 eTubes app, make sure that those adjustments are where I want them to be. Make sure I have the shifting where the rider wants that. So do I have, am I able to shift 2 gears at once? Am I able to dump all the gears at once? So really take a look at those simple things that can be done right from, a laptop, a iPad, a phone, something like that right there from the app. The second thing to always think about is the mounting or the installation of that component. Is it installed correctly? Is the hanger aligned? We have really, really strong motors in these derailleurs, in these systems that allow us to shift when we want. And if that's not shifting off of something that's a good foundation, meaning the hanger is bent, like our DI2 or our SRAM axis, we need to make sure that is taken care of. It's extremely crucial for transmission to be properly installed. I know that's one piece with our curriculum that I was actually talking to Ronnie about this morning was, hey, we need to add add transmission. We need those components here to get students, some experience and setup on those. Yeah, it's a pretty simple process, but it's completely unlike any other installation there. Another piece, and this might be something to think about with most drivetrains. Is the chain directional? Is there a directional chain being used? If so, make sure things are pointed in the right way. Always want to check for chain wear, cassette wear as well. Our one-by drivetrains can be especially, hard on chains, if you will. One-by drive systems can wear through chains a little bit quicker from that lateral movement. We have a chain ring in the front, and that chain has to stretch across a pretty wide range of gears on the cassette. So, there is some lateral wear that's being noticed, and actually you're able to measure that as well, especially with Abby's new chain wear indicator. There's some other ones that are being considered as well. So be on the lookout for maybe some new ways to measure chains. Abby Tools, they just released a new chain wear indicator that actually allows you to measure the lateral wear of the chain. So kind of interesting. I haven't got my hands on one, but I'd like to get some experience and maybe a little bit more detail on that one. Let's see, our cassettes, right? I talked about cassette wear. This all sounds really simple, but when we're talking about 12, maybe even 13 different cogs or on the cassettes, one chain that's moving across those, every little thing that might cause a problem, every little wear piece, something like that really adds up and can be amplified from a very precision instrument, precise drivetrain like our Axis or DA2. Typically, most of our riders are going to get several hundred, if not maybe 1,000 miles out of a cassette if we're replacing that chain frequently. However, this all depends on how often we're replacing our chain, our rider, how frequently they're using this, the environments they're riding in, as well as how frequently these systems are serviced. One thing I did get into reading about when I was, kind of contemplating some answers here was the battery. We've been with DI2 since I think 2000. I don't know. I can't remember if I said.
No, I was going with for a while.
Yeah, for quite a while, right? DI2 has been around for a long time. SRAM Axis has got some age on it as well. When we're talking these batteries, are going to start wearing out. Eventually, they're not going to be able to take that full charge. So battery age as well as something to consider. As that, if we got a 5-year-old, bike with some Axis on there, maybe consider, maybe it's time for a new battery there. Maybe that battery's not able to give it the full juice to make the derailleur work. That possibly could be an issue. Terminals as well. You know, we slide that battery on and off that terminal. Eventually, something's going to wear out there. That surface is going to wear down, and maybe not. Maybe the connection's not as close as it should be. So we could actually be experiencing some problems with the connection between the battery and the derailleur yourself. And when the rider puts that under some load or a certain environment, maybe there's a super chunky or section of gravel, or maybe they're really sending it downhill or something like that, and that battery might have some movement there and causing some misshifts or misfires there. So another thing is you can always repair the system. Start from scratch, repair it, and see if a new connection there, wireless connection, makes sense and takes care of the issue. And motors can wear out as well. Like I said earlier, we both seen Di2 around for quite a while. We've seen SRAM Axis now for quite a while, and we could be experiencing some actual wear on the motor, and then that would give the malfunction there. So hopefully our listeners picked up something there they hadn't thought about, or maybe they can reconsider, give it a second look. So I feel like maybe that's some good answers. Happy to take this further as always.
Yeah, I mean, it's great answers, right? So most of the time we know it works, but occasionally it's going to misfire. You've given us lots of things to think about, some tips to, go through kind of a process of a checklist just to look through for the mechanics. If anyone listening wants to ask maybe a more granular question or wants to get a little bit deeper, shoot us over another note. You can just email me, heather@nbda.com, and we'll answer it on the next episode. All right, let's go to the next one then. We have a question that came in from a newer mechanic. He's in a shop in Maryland specifically, and he wants to know about a specialized tool. His question is, do you recommend, oh, this is a big one. This is a big one, Ben. Do you recommend a specific tool or technique for accurately measuring and cutting carbon components, like those handlebars or seat belts, right? We don't want to damage the material, and one cut, I mean, you get one cut, right? So any tools or techniques that you would suggest?
Yeah, one cut, right? And it's carbon, and it probably is not cheap. So yeah, we definitely want to be careful with this one. This is really when you can really flex your professional muscle, I feel like, when you're working with carbon fiber. And you can also slow down and take your time. That's another thing I like whenever I have to work with carbon fiber, or do a trim on a seat post or trim down some handlebars, is hey folks, leave me alone. I need to focus on this. This is a $250 handlebar or whatever it is. I want to make sure we get it taken care of. You hit the nail on the head. Cut as little as possible. This is cut once, you get one chance, and that's it. So cut as little as possible. You can't put material back. Unfortunately, we can't reglue the carbon fiber at all. So just think about that as you're moving through here. Be careful, be cautious. And cutting carbon fiber is 100% different than how you would cut metal outside of using a hacksaw and some type of guide to cut that material. So a little bit about carbon fiber. It's fiber-based, and directional nature of carbon fiber means we need to take care to ensure not to accidentally cause the fibers to split away from the bonding polymer, or that resin, glue, basically. So we don't want to fray that out, right? Don't want that. That's going to be an opportunity for some failure down the road. It creates what's called delamination eventually or immediately. So basically the material is starting to fail because we cut it poorly. Carbon also does not like heat. This is why it makes a horrible braking surface. Back when the pros got into using carbon fiber wheels, you had to use special brake pads, and our folks were experiencing some braking problems, and that is because heat was being dispersed through the carbon fiber, causing issues with the resin bonding between those fibers, and eventually things, just got really bad. So the carbon doesn't like heat. It has poor heat dispersion. And it can become quickly overheated, and definitely can dull that cutting tool. So that's another piece to think about, is go slow when you're cutting carbon fiber. Introduce that cut slowly. You're going to get there. Take your time. Make sure your shop folks know, hey, I'm cutting carbon fiber. Also, because carbon is not great for our lungs as well. There is some dust that's produced. So we need to make sure we're taking some precaution there. Easiest method to to kind of mitigate that dust is to keep that cutting blade and the component wet. Do you have to have some type of special, lubricant there? You don't. Water in a spray bottle works fantastic. That's going to keep that dust down, stop the dust from becoming airborne, take care of our lungs, take care of our eyes. We're not going to have to, breathe that in. So that's another piece there to think about. Always want to make sure we're also donning the appropriate PPE, safety glasses, some type of respirator mask as well. Even if you are taking precautions, spraying that down, just take the time. You don't want to have that stuff floating around in your body. As well as some gloves. Nothing feels worse than having a carbon fiber splinter in your finger, or your hand or whatever. So make sure you're putting some gloves on when you're going to cut this stuff. Just like, if you're going to be cutting metal, really, some gloves, some type of eye protection as well. But with carbon, you want to make sure you're taking care of your lungs because it can become airborne. Another thing to think about is, we talked about electronic drivetrains just a second ago. So we want to double check, especially with seat posts, that we don't have a battery that's tucked away in that seat post, and we don't want to slice the end of that battery off. I haven't seen this happen before, but just take a note. Even though you unplug that Di2 Shimano wire there, maybe you set it down, you got some other stuff ready. Didn't really think about going back to make sure you remove the battery. So don't cut batteries in half, or handlebar accessories. There's some really cool bar end accessories out there. I know Stan's No Tubes just came out with a really cool plugging tool for their darts, and then it slides right into the end of the handlebar. So if you're trimming down things, make sure take a look down in that component, make sure there's nothing tucked away inside. You don't want to create more problems there. Let's see. So some specialty moves here. I think I covered kind of keeping your body safe, double checking components, marking the material. This sounds pretty simple. That what can we suggest here, right? White or silver markers are awesome. They are your best friend against black surfaces. But as taking that a step further, I've heard that a whiteout pen works even better. So do we even have those anymore for sale? So does people still white things out? Yes, they do. So head over to your office supply store, grab a pack of those whiteout pens. It actually cleans off a lot easier than permanent markers do. And it makes a nice fine line. So it's actually pretty nice to use a whiteout pen. I like to draw a cut point as opposed to a line. So just, kind of a little tick that points to where I need to cut. Some folks go as far as kind of wrapping painter's tape around the component. And then they mark that tape. And also sometimes the paint can kind of help control the cut and the speed of the cut, as well as reduce some of the splintering. So that's something to consider. I don't personally do that. I just like to go right for it and, right against the material and not worry about having to do one extra step. If you are doing the painter's tape, wrapping that around, make sure it's wrapped tightly and you only go, one lap around that. Because if you build up a layer of painter's tape, you can actually have issues sliding that component into the saw guide when it's time to cut. Or make the blade cut at a slight angle due to that height difference between the material and the painter's tape. So once it goes past that, you could actually cause that blade to cut at an angle, and then you only get one try, right? So be very, very careful. Blades. So what type of blade do you use? Can I just pick up my hacksaw blade?
Or pipe cutter, right? We use pipe cutters, right?
You don't want to use a pipe cutter. Pipe
Okay.
cutter would actually do some damage here. So let's put the pipe cutter down and just go with a high TPI blade, so 32 or higher. But the best solution here is to grab that Park Tool carbon grit blade. So yes, Park Tool's carbon grit blade. You could find other companies out there, but I love Park Tool. I actually reached out to them this morning about some stuff we need for our bike lab. But their carbon grit blade is fantastic. It lasts for quite a while. The thing with it is a little bit wider than a standard hacksaw blade. So we really need to be careful when we're choosing the type of saw guide we're going to be using. Make sure before that we test the blade to make sure it's going to fall down between the guide's blade slots. So those little slots that got a narrow window, and if it doesn't slide down enough to just let that blade pass through, we're going to end up setting this whole thing up and come to that last part and oh, my blade doesn't fit through the saw guide plates. So just double check that before you start with this. Make sure you have all the right right tools on hand. Make sure that blade is tight in the saw as well. I've seen these blades, if you don't get them tight enough, it starts to wiggle around and you end up with a really wonky cuts. What else is here? Saw guides. Yeah, so saw guides. Most of the time these are designed to be used with a bench vise. So open up the bench vise, put your blade in there, component, clamp it down, you're good to go. Well, it sounds like a simple maneuver there, but sometimes we can actually introduce some flex between those guide plates because we can clamp it into the vise a little too much, or we can clamp down on the component a little too much. So what I like to do is start with enough pressure on it to where it's going to hold into place. So when I clamp that component down, and start to move it. If it's slipping, then I'm going to tighten down that a little bit more. So go easy, see if the component moves or bounces around, and then just adjust the guide from there. So we don't want to clamp it down and just go after it. We could actually cause some flex there and end up with a cut at an angle. Let's see. After the cut, after we do all of this, are we done? You've cut metal before. You got to like clean it up a little bit. Well, what you want to do is you want to reach for a really high grit sandpaper, like a 320, spray it down with some water, prevent that dust from getting in the air. Also, this is going to help with lubricating the surface a little bit and allow that to go a little bit quicker. It's going to prevent any tearing in the carbon fiber later down the road. And it's also going to really finish that cut really, really nice. So smooth edges to prevent that delamination with that high, like 320 grit wet sandpaper takes care of it. I think I answered everything. Maybe like measuring, I like for measuring, what do you use to measure? I like that, like a cloth tailor's tape. It seemed like I got one from a realtor when I moved into a house, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's like the old thing, like measure once, measure again. I think I'd be like,
yes.
I remember when I had a store, I was like, we got to measure, like
yeah.
Check it.
Yes. Yeah. Measure twice, measure again, make the mark, measure again, right? Yeah.
Hello, industry professionals. Stay connected and up to date with the latest in the bike industry by joining the NBDA today for just $79 a year. That's a $50 savings with code BRR50. Whether you're a sales rep, shop employee, or an industry veteran, NBDA membership gives you access to valuable perks. Engage with peers and stay ahead of industry trends this year. Use code BRR50 at checkout to save $50 on your annual membership today. Code is valid for all new members purchasing an annual membership for an individual.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's good information because that is something, just having a process there for cutting carbon fiber. I mean, I'm sorry I recommended or suggested a pipe cutter. I don't know what I was thinking.
Oh, no. No, a pipe cutter is great. It's pretty quick, pretty easy. Sometimes those wheels on the pipe cutter can get chewed up pretty quickly, meaning they can wear out really quick. And that's another one, is to go slow with that as well, right? They're great. They can kind of cause the material on the end to mushroom out, but like a deburring tool we'll take care of that. So
Mhm.
I like a pipe cutter, so
All right.
I'm not against them.
Let me give
Yeah.
you the last one then. Last question.
Yeah.
It's, hydraulic brake bleeds. I love this. And so it's on hydraulic system maintenance. And the retailer asks, what's the most efficient method for diagnosing and resolving persistent air bubbles despite multiple bleed attempts? I mean, we've all been here, right? Where you're just like ready to bang your head, right? Because you keep doing it and that same bubble keeps coming up.
Yeah, this is a good one, right? We got a black box, a black hose. What's happening inside of that's break? We can't see what's happening. We can't look into there, unfortunately. I wish they put little windows in those things so we could see if we got all the air pockets out, but we don't. So I always like to start with a clean system. Start by cleaning that caliper, the pistons, lubricate the caliper pistons as well. Those little square edge seals that hold the caliper in place, or the caliper pistons in place, and allow that to spring back. Make sure we're starting out with a clean system. Speaking of clean systems, make sure we're removing all that dirty fluid. I worked and supported the NICA State Championships here in Arkansas, and the first student that came needed a brake bleed. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is what we're going to do today is bleed brakes. And sure enough, the fluid was extremely dirty. So, we just pushed out the old fluid, put in some fresh fluid, and did a quick bleed and top off, and the brakes were working great. So I always like to make sure, clear out that old fluid. Our dirtiest fluid always winds up at the caliper because it's right down there, and the mud and the muck and the dirt and things are flying up. So that's typically where we're going to experience the dirtiest fluid. So getting that fluid out from the if we push that dirty fluid from the caliper up into our hose and then into the lever, we end up spreading that dirt everywhere. So we always want to make sure we're flushing out from the top down. So from the lever to the caliper. So that's just a simple flush out of the system, clean that up. So we got that checked off. We got a clean caliper checked off. Always make sure we're using the proper process for that. Shimano, SRAM, Magura are all a little different, even though they're all hydraulic systems. They're all a little different bleed process. I love my Magura brakes. Worked on Shimano, owned Shimano, worked on SRAM, owned SRAM, currently running Magura. They're all, it's a hydraulic system, just a little bit different, a little more different bleed kit for them. Of course, different fluids as well. So make sure we're using the right fluid, the correct amount of fluid as well.
That is,
So the bleed process that the manufacturer recommends. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think the times we've run into problems is where we don't use the right bleed fluid. We try to use like not actually the manufacturer recommended, and then we think it'll work, and then no, it doesn't.
You can run into some problems. Absolutely. In a pinch, sure. Yeah, it's fine. But, we can have some issues with seal failure. We got tiny seals in these brakes. So we can deteriorate those seals a little quicker than we want. So that's another thing is, these seals wear out. O-rings, different seals around the pistons, all that stuff is getting worn to some degree. So, it's trying to keep the fluid in, trying to keep dirt, air out of the system. So, it's got a big job. So check those as well, replace them. If you got an old bike, it's got some hydraulic brakes on them. The rider loves this. They love the brakes. They love everything about it. Absolutely. Do a great job on this. Check those seals to see if you have anything that's leaking, anything that looks torn, or just a really nasty surface there. Let's go ahead and replace those seals. Another place that we can have worn seals is actually on our tools. So the syringes we use, those O-rings, those hoses will definitely deteriorate over time. Replace these at least once a year. Absolutely. Especially if you're doing a lot of brake bleeds. Those are getting some wear and tear. That movement of that seal, you screw that hose on, it gets smashed Every time you screw it in, eventually, just like a rubber band, it's going to start to wear out. So replacing those. Another thing, and I actually learned this when I started working here at the college, is don't clean hydraulic brake bleed kits with isopropyl alcohol. Wait,
Ooh,
what? Are we not supposed to clean these up?
really?
Yeah, so if you spray them down, what happens is that alcohol can dry out the rubber, plastic, making it a little bit brittle each time you clean it. So the simplest way to do it is flush it out with some clean, fresh fluid, and just take a disposable or a shop rag and wipe all that excess down, store it right there in its own fluid. That
Oh,
typically will extend the life of our syringes, plastics, all that good stuff. Those syringes are designed to work with our dot fluid and our mineral fluid as well. So this storm right there and kind of that damp environment. Obviously, keep those two systems separate. You can keep them in different drawers, maybe different sides of the shop. I don't know. Just keep those separate. Keep your. I also like to keep the bleed blocks, what goes in the caliper.
oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I like to keep those out of the kit and in a separate drawer. Keep them nice and dry because those can absorb some of that fluid. We can, transfer that fluid onto the piston and forget that we think we cleaned everything up and then we've left some of that fluid in there. So keeping those separate, even your brake pad spacers, we got a different assortment of those. Keeping those separate as well. Just keeping them clean. It's nice. So takes care of it. In a brake bleed in a hydraulic system, our air always likes to travel up. Air bubbles also like to hang up on the edges of surfaces, on corners, like the architecture and the vanes inside of those calipers, inside of the levers. So we can get tiny bubbles that might just like to hang out in those, the corners, the deep corners of our hydraulic system. So always think about, little vibration here helps to release those. So taking a tool and tapping on the lever, the hose, the caliper can kind of help get those back into place. I actually had one of the instructors on the trail side. He came up to me the other morning. It's like, "Hey man, I went out for a ride over the break. It was awesome, but my rear brake went out." I'm like, "What do you mean your rear brake went out? Like you lost it? What happened?" So no, he said, he was great before he started. Hadn't ridden in this bike in a while, and like 30 minutes into the ride, he was just squeezing the lever, and nothing was happening. So he had a trapped air bubble in there. And what had happened was over the course of time, he was given that brake a squeeze, and he was actually taking that one big air bubble and making all these little champagne bubbles that went all over the system and caused even more problems. So he's got experience, so he took care of it and did a brake bleed when he got back, and it took care. I think it solved his problems, but we'll see
Oh,
the next time I ride with him. I don't know. So seals fail. Break the bubbles can do all sorts of things. Just doing a little bit more thorough investigation there. Hopefully, we'll solve some problems with this one.
I like that tip about tapping the lever, hose, or caliper and how that can help. So checking those seals and yeah, I mean, it's the worst when you're on the trail, right? And something goes wrong for sure.
And that's when it happens. It's when,
That's
and
what
we're feeling
happens.
great. Right? Yeah. You
Good.
finally have some time on the calendar to ride. You go out for a ride and you get a flat or your brakes go out, right? So
Ben, thank you. You just take all these questions in stride. I love to have this podcast. This feature is something I know I've heard our members say they really, really look forward to, and we can get some good information out. I'm really anxious to see the new programs that you're soon to unveil. Opportunity for mechanics to get even more training. So we'll keep our eyes on that and be sure to share any information you have as it comes available. Listeners, thanks for listening. This wraps up our episode for today. You can see our past episodes on our YouTube channel or just scroll back on your platform that you stream on. Lots of great questions have been presented to us over the past year. So there's lots of information for your mechanics. Just do a whole deep dive into the podcast, listen and catch up. If you have questions, as I said, just send them over. Anything on bicycle service center, mechanics training, bike assembly, anything at all, heather@nbda.com. Ben, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Listeners, that's it. Head over to the NBDA website. You can see all the events we have coming up. Learn more about our summit events in Las Vegas and in Bentonville that are happening in March and May. And if you want to support the show, go ahead and share with your friends or leave a review. All right, that's it. Have a great afternoon. Thanks again, Ben.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning into Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, please like, subscribe, or leave us a review. Sharing this podcast with your friends helps us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best content. Remember, we host 2 shows per week with ever-changing guests and fresh content to keep you both informed and inspired. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is committed to providing valuable events, webinars, and opportunities for industry education and connection. Stay up to date by visiting nbda.com to see our event calendar. Special thanks to Francis Abbott for the promotional graphics for today's episode. If you're interested in advertising on Bicycle Retail Radio or have a guest suggestion, visit nbda.com to learn more. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Bicycle Retail Radio.